Hello and welcome to Eat Your Greens. I'm John.
And I'm Christopher.
Yep.
Hey, John.
Yeah?
Do you eat your greens?
Heck no.
Oh.
Alright.
Alright, so we're here to talk about the third VeggieTales video. Are you my neighbor?
Yes. We're not, actually.
Oh.
We're close enough.
Good. We're...
What's a neighbor?
Dictionary!
Hey Siri, what's a neighbor?
It's an android.
Hey Android, what's your neighbor? Alright, so yeah, episode 3, what's a neighbor? It starts
With the letter N. Alright, so with this episode, we start with the story of Flipper.
No, first things first. We start with Larry, and he's wearing a boot on his head.
Mm-hmm.
Which is strange.
So one quick note about that.
Yeah.
Like Bob mentioned, they had another letter this time instead of just the friend from the bowling club. Which, you know what? We've never seen Bob bowl. I feel like they've made reference to Bob bowling before or something.
Maybe Bob is the actual ball.
What a thought.
And I think first thing you said of note was that the animation was like better just visually.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately you could see that it was better.
Yeah.
I also took note that Larry finally reached his normal self.
Just about.
Yeah, like in the beginning he's still, but once he got to the song, it's exactly Larry.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the new one, I think. At the end, like he changed voices at the end, I think as well.
Really? I didn't notice.
I didn't really notice either, but I didn't.
Why are you talking about
I didn't notice it as the old one.
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay.
So
or we probably just got super used to it.
Anyway, so yeah, they tell us, hey, you should love thy neighbor in this one. So yeah, we go into the flinger blocker.
Story of Flipper Lou.
Mm-hmm.
First, it threw me off at first. I mean, of it being a rhyme.
Yeah, like the entire story rhymed, which made me think, okay, so they're basing this off of something clearly because they're rhyming in this one.
Tale of Two Cities? Wasn't that a rhyme?
I don't know.
I don't think it was.
I kind of think because the rhyming scheme just sounded a lot like if it were a Dr. Seuss. Because he has a lot of weird things. Like
that was probably the intention.
Yeah, because like things of a loo, kind of a woo.
Mm-hmm.
The kids of Hulu. So yeah, they rhymed a lot in this one, and whatnot. Anything you want to say?
I mean, with the story itself, honestly, not that much. I mean, I have like two main things that I want to touch on more at the end. I mean, it is a classic story. Honestly, like when they're saying that we're busy, it's just flat out hilarious. Just because it's the irony of them taking the time to sing the song when they say they're so busy, and then the "Love Your Neighbor" song they sing at the end of the story is a classic song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So "Busy I'm Busy" is probably. It's probably a song that I kind of remember a lot. It's just like, even without really thinking about VeggieTales, it's like, I think of just this one song that's just the one I recognize the most. That and probably Where's My Hairbrush, which is in this episode as well. One thing I did note is that this is the episode where they tell the rival factions. And this is what I would call a cliche story point that almost every cartoon uses. And what I mean by that is they tend to use something where we have two factions that are just rivals, that are against each other, like a Hatfield and McCoy situation. And usually the visual is always that they're two hills, two separate buildings, and they're always throwing things at each other. The other one that comes to mind in this case would be My Little Pony, which is there's an episode like that. And when I saw the episode, I thought back to VeggieTales, and it's like, yeah, so
They copied VeggieTales. I'm kidding.
And no, they just reused one of the simplest things that they can use. And I don't fully like it whenever cartoons just reuse the same concept. That's what it is, concept. So yeah, the concept of the rivals is in this one. It's one I remember most. I'm kind of tired of seeing it, but because this is
For kids.
a long time ago.
Oh, not true.
Yeah, it's fine. But it was pretty strange because this is also the story of the Good Samaritan in this, while also not being the Good Samaritan. It's heavily embellished in this one.
I mean, aren't they pretty much all?
Yeah, but
for the most part.
Yeah, but this one, instead of just being two rival things on two hills with wearing pots and pans, it's not. Because the story of the Good Samaritan is that Samaria did something that was not good against the tribes. And so the main tribes said, Samaria, you're bad. We put a curse on your cows and your land. We don't like you. You're filthy. And that way we're not going to interact with you ever because you're filth. And so Samaria is just a filth land. And whenever the Jews needed to go to a certain place, if it went through Samaria, they wouldn't go. They just go all the way around just so they can avoid going through filth. And that's why when Jesus goes to Samaria, it's a very big deal because back then, you don't do that. And the disciple says, hey, Jesus, let's go around Samaria. And Jesus is like, no, let's go through. And there he meets with people. He meets with the Samaritan woman on the well, has that conversation. And so this being the story of the Good Samaritan, I think that our modern thoughts is that we don't know the meaning behind that. Like when you just tell the story of the Good Samaritan, it's just a story of just like, oh, this good guy, he helped them out. But we don't actually know what does the Samaritan mean in the culture. The story of the Good Samaritan is like this guy, he gets robbed, he's left on the side of the road. And these people go by, and they're very important figures in Jewish culture. One of them is a Levite. And he's like, Levites are pretty much the priests of the group. Like, they're the ones who should really be helping. But no, he looks, it's like, get out of here. I'm walking my own way. I don't really care about you. And then you got a Samaritan, who's considered filth. He comes by, and he's the Good Samaritan because he helps this guy who will probably consider him filth, but he goes and helps him anyway, pays for his care, and that's good. And we don't get that in this story. Here it's just, we just have two people that don't really like each other, and in the end, they learn to like each other, which is not the case in the Bible.
Well, in the VeggieTales thing, Junior just, in the Bible, it didn't really showcase the thought process of the Samaritan. It kind of just seems like, oh, he's hurting, therefore I'll help. I feel like in the VeggieTales thing, it kind of maybe shed some light on. Maybe he had a thought process to break through in order to bring himself.
Yeah, and he had a good thought process of God made us all special. He made him special, and so because of that, I should care for him.
In addition, what I've kind of noticed with VeggieTales, or honestly just most anything that tends to make a point. Somewhat context, we both go to Calvary Chapel, Lynchburg. Basically, Calvary Chapel, their big thing is that they preach through the word. They're not very topical in their sermons, which I'll admit, I do miss sometimes. But like when some pastors write topical sermons, they'll kind of just pull a verse, sometimes unintentionally, out of its context to fit its point, its message.
Yeah.
And so the same thing kind of with VeggieTales, whether it's appropriate or not, they pull this story to bring out this point, to teach this specific lesson to the kids. It's not as much about like trying to accurately communicate the story. It's trying to communicate a specific message or point to the kids. That's kind of what I've noticed. I mean, a lot of things, context, like you said, with sermons, but also just with VeggieTales as well.
Yeah. And so for this one, they're retelling the story of the Good Samaritan, while also not being about the Good Samaritan. Because they don't call them Samaritans. They don't really call the others Jews. It's just Fugaloo and Pickleberry. I don't know.
Flibberoloo and Liberty Law? Nah, I don't know.
Something like that.
Liberty Law. What a name.
Liberty Law.
If that was
Dr. Seuss. And in the end, they decide, hey, we're nice people now. God made us both special. We should care about that. And so they start throwing flowers and candy at each other.
He was...
When I saw that happen, I just kind of had like a laugh inside myself.
No, it wasn't outside.
It was inside myself.
It was outside. You... Wait, no, you did laugh. Okay, but outwardly you expressed like...
It made me smile because like I had the thought. It's like
you said it out loud.
I said it out loud as well. It was like they're throwing candy at each other, and that's fine. That's fun. We all like having candy
thrown at our heads.
Until we realize, oh, hey, there's such things as hard candies like lollipops and even chocolates at times. So they're throwing candy at each other, and it's like I can just imagine if this were being in real life. You just take candy and you throw it at someone. That's gonna hurt. Mm-hmm. Like I can take a Reese's cup right now and throw it at you. Mm-hmm. That would hurt. Mm-hmm. Like even though it's just like a tiny little thing, it's not that heavy. It's not that big. I chuck it at you. That's gonna hurt.
True.
That's gonna hurt. So yeah, candy hurts.
Candy hurts. Candy hurts.
I'm writing that down.
That should be a shirt. Candy hurts.
That's today's title. Candy hurts.
Candy hurts.
So then we move on to the silly song with Larry. And we have the Where Is My Hairbrush?
Yes.
Appropriately, Harry has no lair.
It's obviously a classic one. I remember watching it a few years ago and just cracking up so hard about the shocked and slightly embarrassed side of Larry in a towel.
Yes, this is the one I kind of remember the most. That and Barbara Manatee. But actually, I was looking through some old files, and fun fact, they actually did own at one point the CD of Silly Songs.
You?
I did, and I can remember like back when we used to have Walkmans with CDs. I put that in. I put the headphones in. That was fun, and I'd play that song because that was the only CD that I had was just like the Silly Songs, and so yeah, I owned the CD of Silly Songs.
Well, is it Silly Songs with Larry as the pirate on the cover of it? Is it that one?
As a what?
With Larry as the pirate on
I don't remember the actual case.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a CD. I might still have it somewhere under many boxes. But then we move on to the second half of the story.
The courts must be crazy.
And like we're introduced to like Junior, he's gonna have a birthday party. His dad's like, hey, maybe you should invite Fernando, the new kid.
And Junior's a little
apprehensive about it.
No, that's not the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Let me kind of put it this way. I guess I'll kind of just dive into my main point here. Mm-hmm. Junior, and I get it. Because Fernando, assumedly, we'll say Mr. Lunchchild. I don't know. But Hispanic origin, and that kind of speaks to today with... Yeah, I'm gonna say racial tensions that we have, and
I mean, I didn't really get that from him.
Really? Well, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying Junior was straight up racist. I'm just saying like this whole episode kind of just spoke out at that. Love your neighbor. I can be your friend.
No,
these whole things like the point is to love people. That's kind of what I was kind of getting
I get
at.
where you're coming from, but I didn't actually see it as that. I just saw it as this new person comes to town. I don't know him. Why should I invite him to my birthday party of people who I want to know?
And honestly, on that note, I would definitely agree because especially, I mean, just saying in my case, like if I was to have a birthday party, I wanted to be with close people. It's not necessarily my social time.
As an adult, you just have a birthday party with just a small group of friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I do my birthday parties.
Parties.
My parties with two people.
Mm-hmm. If I want to get to know you better, I'm gonna just straight up get a meal with you. Like, I'm not inviting you to something special and intimate to me. It's not that I don't care for you.
You're talking to the audience, huh?
Yeah, I am.
So they take you on that offer.
They should.
Okay. So yeah, I didn't really notice any racial tension in this one.
I mean, I don't think necessarily that was the point, but at the same time, Fernando, that is...
Yeah, also, if it's not explicit saying that this is actually racist or not, I wouldn't get it. Because I don't normally notice racial tension growing up in South America and all.
I guess that's good. Yeah, well, I mean, just the base point, whether it was meant, which I don't think, but to tackle racism or not, the overall thing, to love people, regardless of who they are or how much you like really know them, is something that we all struggle with. And whether you want to bring racism into the conversation or not, just we all struggle with loving people. And
oh yeah, I mean this message works very well with last episode's message, because their
last episode was
you want me to forgive them,
right?
Because they're both kind of in the same boat. This one's more talking about being friends with someone that you don't really know. I think the forgiving part ties more with the first episode with the Flugugulu and Likaleko, and because they're fighting each other, they need to forgive each other. On top of that, they need to be good neighbors. Like the Grapes of Wrath weren't good neighbors to the Afro kid. I'm good at words, by the way.
Was there anything else about The Courts Must Be Crazy that you want to touch on?
Well, after Dad says, "Hey, you should invite Fernando to your birthday," he leaves, and some aliens show up, and they kidnap Junior to Star Trek.
I mean, that was such an intense moment in VeggieTales, probably the scariest moment that we've encountered yet.
So when this thing happened, it's like, what's going on here? I mean, just halfway through the space part of it, it's like, this is kind of weird.
Honestly, because I kind of just grew up with it.
Yeah,
it doesn't strike me as weird at this point.
I mean, of course not. Like, growing up, it's like, oh, that's fine. But if you really think about storytelling-wise, it's like...
I mean, it was weird enough that Bob and Larry invaded the room in the first place with the first episode with all those monsters, and then now they kidnapped Junior. That's a good point. They
kidnapped Junior, but like the strange thing is like, okay, so you're telling us we should invite Fernando to the birthday party, but now we're in space. You see what I mean? You see where we're coming from here? Those two.
Well, you think about it. Like the kid writes in, "Hey, I'm having trouble loving my brother," and then they tell two completely stretched out stories. So I mean, I guess that is the VeggieTales.
But the space thing. It's like a direct reference to Star Trek, including the name of the ship, USS Apple Pies, instead of the Enterprise.
I think you died at that.
Oh man, I kind of groaned at that. A groan laugh. It's like, it's funny, but it's also, oh no, that's silly. But the story there is that we have a meteor made out of popcorn that's going to destroy the ship. And the heroes of the story are these two new guys. Here's where they're connected. It's the new guys. And they eat the popcorn.
Impressive feat. I feel it's so interesting, seeing First off, I'll just straight up say, I don't think we have to dwell on this point super long. The stories on this episode are so much better than the previous two. Personally,
I'd say so,
especially
too.
considering how the first parts of the first two were like a conversation with kids, namely like Junior and such, and kind of like that awkward feeling. Well, this focused on the story instead of like talking directly to the kids. And so for me, it was personally more engaging.
Even though the story took some weird turns.
Yeah, and then also like some interesting potential like holes in the story. For example, like how did they really? They said that the popcorn meteor was coming at 500 miles per hour.
Sure.
And Jimmy and Jerry survived that. I'm not just talking about the eating.
I
the
know.
landing on it. They survived that.
Yeah.
I mean,
also, given that they're going the opposite direction at their own speed to catch up to
True.
it.
And they were going pretty fast.
They're going pretty fast. And then they eat it in
under
like
2 minutes.
Not under a minute as well.
You think? I thought it was 2.
No, because like they had 5 minutes in the countdown. And then, it takes all that time to get there. And then like you have like even 2 minutes.
But I thought it was at the 2-minute mark that they hit. They landed.
I don't remember, but let's be kind and say that was the case.
Okay.
That's still 2 minutes to eat a whole meteor made out of popcorn.
Like I don't doubt that
It's coming at your thing at such.
I believe that they could eat the whole thing.
Not realistically.
Realistically, because it's Jimmy and Jerry. The speed, not.
Okay.
I mean, like we don't know how big the meteor is. They never said how big it was.
But like judging from the scale when they got there, compared to how big it was a decent size.
True. I still think they could eat it.
Anyway, I can be your friend.
They have a history of eating a lot of things in a short amount of time.
They have a history of eating, guys. Watch out. They have a history of eating.
You.
Wow.
Sorry. Because you said they have a history of eating guys. And so I was instantly like, oh. That's what you said.
Okay, so why'd you say you?
Because you're a guy and so am I.
Okay, let's move on. I can be your friend.
Classic song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question.
Also, question. The dancing was a lot better in this compared to the God is Bigger than Boogeyman.
Slightly better. There's still a bit of awkwardness there.
I get that it still has to be a little cartoony, but the God is Bigger than Boogeyman was like more of a chaotic mess than dancing, in my opinion.
Yeah, so during the end, they brought up something about eating something. And like I had just this shock that just suddenly came to me as I had this epiphany. What do vegetables eat?
What were they eating again that made you think that?
I don't know.
Can't remember.
Like they weren't eating something, but they mentioned something about eating. I don't know what it was for the birthday party or something. And the made me think, it's like, what do vegetables eat? They just ate popcorn. That's made out of corn. Corn is people in their world. And so
we were talking also a little bit about wheat is probably the only thing they could actually eat without.
And so, yeah, they had muffins. Like they could eat muffins.
Oh right, you were talking about muffins.
Apparently they eat French fries.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, we learn that they eat cheeseburgers.
Mm-hmm. And tomatoes are in there.
Apparently.
Typically.
I mean, I don't eat tomatoes with my burger.
You don't?
I don't like tomatoes. I always take them out.
It helps bring the juice to the burger.
I don't like tomato juice.
I don't like tomato juice. I'm just saying the juiciness that the tomato brings the juiciness to the burger.
I don't like that. No. Typically, I don't like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy. And then, of course, we had the song gag with the computer, which happens every episode. And those are things to look forward to.
I can't believe actually how funny it is. I didn't realize how funny it was.
Yes.
What did Bob do? It almost seemed like he destroyed the computer.
He went out, destroyed the music, whoever's doing the music.
And it still played it.
It still played hilarious. It. Sure, yeah. Hilarious.
Because I don't remember that countertop scene at all, so it was funny.
And of course, today's verse is Leviticus 19:18, which is honor thy neighbor as thyself. It's a different version of that verse, but it's the same principle. Love your neighbor.
Was it love your neighbor?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Because we're familiar of it as the golden rule when Jesus was talking about, the two rules, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah. All right. And so what did you have to say that you want to talk about? Because you said you had a couple points at the end.
I sprinkled them through. So we...
Okay. And so, the basic story is love your neighbor. Do you think this is a good message? And was it told good in this episode?
Something I kind of think about is that with children's shows, typically, thinking about it when I was younger, like I was kind of more wanting them to be entertained and be taught. So, to a degree, it's up to the child to choose to listen and to learn. But I mean, these are still important lessons that need to be learned today, whether there are tensions high in the world or if it's just something local or something personal. I feel like it is something that we all struggle with, and I know I'm struggling with it right now. To love people, either as I love myself or as I love the Lord or as I love other friends. So I feel like the songs definitely help bring it home. If the songs weren't a part of it, I don't think it would have been as well enforced.
Yeah, I think again the message itself is pretty clear. You should love your neighbor because of course they tell you that, but the stories they reflected that. Not so much in space, but the basic idea: invite Fernando to your birthday party if you have one, and then. Do you think this episode as a whole holds up well?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like out of the 3 that we've watched so far, probably the strongest one for the most part.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely the strongest. What do you guys think? Yeah. That's rude. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say here?
No. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good rest of the day, and God bless.